Hey guys, and welcome back after 4 months to the Trope Show, where I pick a trope and go over some examples of it for you. And I couldn't think of a more appropriate topic for this episode than time skips. So yeah, because there's been 4 months since the last episode, and I've just now skipped ahead in time to do this episode. So what is a time skip? Well, a time skip is when a work of fiction skips ahead in time to progress the story, and we see where characters have progressed to in that time frame. And it could be anything between like a year to several thousand years, or maybe more. So, with that explanation out of the way, let's use some examples of time skips, shall we? Well, South Park, the most recent show to have featured one of these, in its post-COVID special, skips ahead 40 years to show us a world in which Stan is a drunken alcoholic, and he's called back to South Park by Kyle because Kenny's died, and they need to uncover the mystery of Kenny's death. And a new strain of COVID is actually discovered while this is going on, and they're attending Kenny's funeral. Yeah, so it skips ahead in time to 2061. I'm not going to tell you any more of the story. You have to go and watch it for yourselves, if you're interested. Now, sticking with animation for a moment, for a few more goes around here. Naruto Shippuden is based on the Naruto Part 2 manga, and as such begins on a 2.5-year time skip, where we catch up with the gang again and see what they've been up to in that time. And then we got Boruto, which is set 20 years after that, and it's about Naruto's son. So, Dragon Ball, now their whole saga has time skips between arcs. Yeah, that actually progress the story through the time. So, for example, the first time skip actually happens in between the end of the saga of Goku, or the Emperor Pilaf saga, and the first World Tournament arc in the original Dragon Ball. There's only a year's time skip. And then from there, we get another year, and then 2 3-year skips to the end of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z picks up 5 years after the end of Dragon Ball. And then as time progresses in Dragon Ball, we eventually come to a 7-year time skip, and then a 10-year time skip. Now, this is where it gets interesting, talking canonically of Dragon Ball, because in between the Majin Buu arc and the end of Dragon Ball Z, we have another 10-year skip. And during that skip, we have the series Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super takes place during those 10 years. So, not after them, during them. So, yeah, there you go. Now, the animated TV series All Grown Up is a sequel series to Rugrats set 10 years after the events of that series, but it is set up during the episode All Grown Up as a backdoor pilot in the original Rugrats series. So a whole series set on a 10-year skip. And it depicts our main characters as middle schoolers. So, yeah, despite the show being called All Grown Up, it's not them as adults. It's them as middle schoolers. Now, I know there are other animated series that would have official time skips during them, but I'm done talking about those for now. And let's go into live action. Okay, now some examples of live action time skips. The Star Wars saga skips 3 years in between the original and The Empire Strikes Back, and then a year in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And then we go into the prequel saga, where we have a 10-year skip between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and a 3-year skip between that and Revenge of the Sith. But in that 3-year skip, we have the Clone Wars series happening during that skip, an animated TV series. Then we have a 19-year skip between that and A New Hope, during which, interestingly enough now, live action TV series Obi-Wan Kenobi takes place. It takes place 10 years after the end of Revenge of the Sith. The animated TV series Rebels that takes place in that time frame as well, about 5 years before A New Hope. And the 2 spin-off films, Solo, a Star Wars story, which is set about 13 years before with a younger Han Solo, and Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is set directly before A New Hope begins. And then we get into the sequel saga, the sequel, the Disney trilogy era, okay. And in that 30-year time skip, we have The Mandalorian taking place, the TV series, picking up 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Then we have TV series, I'm not even sure if The Bad Batch or Andor are actually set during that time period, but then we have the actual trilogy itself, with The Force Awakens picking up 30 years after Return of the Jedi. and The Last Jedi picking up directly after that one. So we have another 1 year skip at the end with The Rise of Skywalker. Okay. Mary Poppins. I know. We're talking about the films here. 25 years occur in between the end of the original and the beginning of Mary Poppins Returns, which takes place after that 25-year skip. Even though the film actually took 54 years to come out. Well, we'll talk about sequel gaps later on, but this is about time skips. Okay. um. Ow. It's for the stage, so we'll count it as live action. I can't believe I'm mentioning this. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child takes place 19 to 22 years after the end of the main series. But the reason I can't believe I've had to mention that in this episode is because not canon! So, and if you want to know the reasons why I say that, watch my canon or not canon on it. Okay, because I'm not going into it here. Okay. Um. Okay, so we've used quite a few examples in each category so far for animated and live action. How about literature to end the episode off? Time skips in literature. Well, the Harry Potter series is where we're going to talk about here because it started out as a literary series first. Each sequel takes place literally around 2 months after the last one left off, as Harry enters his second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever year at Hogwarts, and whatever adventure happens. Then we have the 19 years later epilogue to end the series off and close the book on it. And that's where Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny, and they're just sending their kids off to Hogwarts. So the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, that is actually set on 2 timelines. The Earth timeline and the Narnian timeline. So, you want to get into that? Okay, we will. We'll start chronologically in The Magician's Nephew, which takes place in Earth year 1900. And it chronicles the genesis of Narnia. Yes, the Book of Genesis for Narnia. And it's about a young Diggory Kirk and Polly Plummer going to the land that becomes Narnia to watch it all happen. Okay, so now, skipping ahead 40 years on the Earth timeline and 1000 on the Narnia timeline, we have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which details the adventures of the Pevensey children starting in Narnia. Then, set 1 Earth year after that, and 2300 Narnian years after that, we have Prince Caspian. Why am I leaving the horse and his boy out? Well, because that's actually set during The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, in the last year of the Pevensey's reign. So, it doesn't really count for it. Okay, it does. It takes place 14 years after the coronation of the Pevenseys. But then, again, Earth year 1941 and Narnian year 2303. The Telmarines have invaded and taken over. The Pevenseys go back to Narnia to see what they can do, and have to fight off evil again. Well, I'm not here to summarize these books. We move on now to the next time skip chronologically, which would be to Earth year 1942 and Narnian year 2306. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. So, how long Narnia has lived through since the Pevenseys was returning to Earth is starting to get narrower. Okay. Then jumping ahead again in universe to Earth year 1943, or still Earth year 1942 actually, but just in the autumn term. And Narnian year, I believe it's the year 2356 in Narnia at this point. So 50 years have gone by since they've last left. And at this point, it's actually not the Pevenseys anymore. Edmund and Lucy were too old to come back into Narnia at that point. Eustace and Jill. And our final time skip jumps us ahead to 1949 in Earth years. And the end of the Narnian timeline. The end of the world of Narnia. The year 2555 on the Narnian calendar. So 200 years almost have passed at that point. Okay. And that's where I think I'm going to feel comfortable leaving it off. I know I've missed out quite a lot, but I don't like these episodes to take too long, so that's it. Until next time, guys. Until then, though, if you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have us a magical time.